Hello everybody, welcome to the video. My name is Midway and today I'm bringing you part 3 of the Holy Paladin beginner series. This time we're going to be talking about raiding. So we'll cover all the different builds you can expect to be playing in patch 10.1. We will also be covering the changes to Avenging Crusader, to the tier set as well, and then we'll give some gameplay tips of what you can expect to be playing like as a Holy Paladin in raids, as well as giving some practical examples with some footage. But before we get into any of that, here's a word from my first ever sponsor, Age of Origins. Age of Origins is a tower defense city building strategy mobile game. In this game, you take command of a city that sits in the middle of a post-apocalyptic world. With the help of your assistants and troops, you will expand your city, develop research technology, and fend off waves of invasive zombies. While developing your city, you as a commander can seek to build diplomatic ties with commanders from other cities. The end goal? Creating the most powerful city for a doomsday world. In Age of Origins, you have the power to recruit a vast array of mighty troops to fight by your side against the forces of the Doom Wasteland. Take on hordes of ravenous zombies, rescue helpless civilians from the ruins of the old city, and join forces with your alliance in a quest for domination and glory. Recruit and collect a diverse array of officers to lead your army to victory and grant your troops and city powerful buffs. From cunning strategists to fierce warriors, each officer possesses unique abilities that can turn the tide of battle in your favor. Build powerful titans to serve as the unstoppable might of your army and wreak havoc amongst your enemies. Participate in nerve-wracking PvP battles where timing and strategy are the keys to victory. With stunning graphics and immersive gameplay, this mobile game will take you on an adrenaline-filled journey like no other. Are you ready to step up to the challenge and become the ultimate commander? Download Age of Origins now with the link in the description and let the battle begin. Right, so let's start by talking about what builds you can expect to be playing in patch 10.1. And those are playing normal wings, playing the wings that buff your damage and healing from pretty much everything, versus playing Avenging Crusader or playing melee wings. Those are the two archetypes that are viable right now. There is no such thing as a caster build, it's not recommended to play it, it's underperforming versus these two options. So if you are enthusiastically getting into Holy Paladin, trying to play a caster build as you remember it back in the day, I'm afraid that that is not a thing anymore. So here is the first build that I'm going to show you. This is the normal wings build. It's also the build that is recommended on the Paladin Discord, so you can go down in the description, click the link and go there. But as you can see, it's a build where we're using normal wings. Now there's nothing too interesting in this kind of build. There's not many changes to be made in the Holy Paladin section of the tree as it's been for the longest time now, but things that we are getting here, for example, are a little bit of extra haste. We have here the choice between a little bit of extra haste here or the cooldown reduction onto Holy Shock. Now, I do believe that depending on your gear and depending on the power of Holy Shock, we might shift this around between this to this because Holy Shock is going to be a lot more important. But that also means a lot more mana consumption, so it's going to depend on things like how much mana are you able to sustain throughout the fight. Now, we are playing with Double Beacon. I do believe this is a build where Double Beacon is going to be shining a lot more, but there is also going to be the option of always going Beacon of Virtue if the fight really is suited for it, if you feel like damage patterns are a lot better for it. But I do believe that not playing melee wings, it's always going to be a lot better to playing normal or just playing Double Beacon as we've always done. Here we are also picking Echoing Blessings, a little bit of an option here. We could also switch that around with other options, but I do believe that's the ideal pathing for more of a progression setting with these sort of talents. This is probably the best you can get out of that, as well as throughput-wise, there will be some choices here, but are going to be extremely minor. So I do believe this is a tree here that you are going to be wanting to play if you're playing normal melee wings. Things that I want to point out as well as here, having Strength of Conviction, having 1 point here, so we can also benefit a little bit from standing in Consecration when we are consuming the charges of Empyrean Legacy with our Word of Glory. We can go ahead and get a little bit of an increase on the healing of the Word of Glory right there. And we are also choosing the Divine Resonance here, so whenever we are using Divine Toll, we're getting that extra holy power that's going to fit really well into our burst by just pumping out a little bit more of those Lights of Dawn. So that's the build when I'm also going to give you the build that's also recommended when you are playing Avenging Crusader. In the case you want to be playing melee wings or Avenging Crusader, this is instead the build. As you can see, it's a build where you can get these two capstones where you are able to pick Matt's Paragon, so you can increase, or what used to be called Matt's Paragon, so you can increase the duration of your wings whenever you throw a Judgment or whenever you throw a Hammer of Wrath. So I'll leave these two builds down in the description. You can choose them, you can go ahead and import them into your into your setup. So these are the builds that I would recommend you, and the Holy Paladin Discord would recommend you to be playing in patch 10.1. I'm sure there will be some changes to them, but as of now, these are builds that are recommended to be playing whenever you are getting into raiding content in the patch looking forward. So some gameplay cues or tips when playing normal wings are the following. Now what you want to be doing with your holy power as a holy paladin in raids is pretty much 9.9 times out of 10 using that holy power onto Light of Dawn. The only reason pretty much why you would ever want to be casting a Word of Glory in a raiding scenario is to consume Empyrean Legacy. Empyrean Legacy is a buff that we get from our talents that whenever we throw a judgment, after we then use a Word of Glory, we're going to be consuming that buff and proccing an extra Light of Dawn. So it's quite worth it doing it because you pretty much get double the value of your holy power when you're consuming that buff. You should be tracking this buff, the Empyrean Legacy buff, because it's gonna end up just making you do more throughput. But that's about it. You shouldn't really be stressing about knowing when to use Word of Glory because there should be no other scenario where you need it. There will be some scenarios, it's pretty niche, but as a beginner and as a TLDR, just pretty much always use your holy power onto Light of Dawn. Make sure you're trying to hit people with it. Make sure you have the talent selected so you can actually reach them, the 40-yard talent. And that's pretty much about it. Just keep your Holy Shock on cooldown. Rotation-wise, as we mentioned in the first video, the first thing to do as a Holy Paladin in a raiding environment is to keep your Holy Shock on cooldown. Second, you just want to be on melee, cycling through your Crusader Strikes, and whenever you have Hammer of Wrath available, make sure to use it. And that's really simple, that's all about it. Never really use your Judgment, or really, it's a filler spell, you want to be using it, but never really use it before any of the other things we already talked about. Don't use it before a Holy Shock. Don't use it before a Crusader Strike if you don't need to. Only really use it smartly if it's a completely filler spell, there's nothing else to do, and if you want to be proccing your Empyrean Legacy. Consecration, only use it at complete downtime scenarios when there's nothing else to press because it's a filler, or if you're really actively trying to do some damage. So that is really the TLDR rundown of how to play a Holy Paladin in a raiding scenario. Any questions, please drop them in the comments. There's a lot more to talk about, but we want to make it a little bit quick here. And in the case we're going to end up playing Avenging Crusader, the way this works is pretty much the opposite of how it works with normal wings. What you want to be doing is whenever you have wings active, in the case of melee wings, you want to be keeping your, first of all, your Judgment on cooldown because it's going to be doing the most damage, therefore getting the most healing transfer out of it. You're going to be keeping your Crusader Strike on cooldown as well, and then you want to be being on melee, so you keep on melee hitting the boss. That's the way you maximize your healing transfer from Avenging Crusader into healing. Now, whenever all of those things are done, if you already have 5 Holy Power, what you want to be doing is just spending that Holy Power on a Light of Dawn, as you would normally do with melee wings. Then, if you have your Hammer of Wrath active, you want to be throwing that. And the last thing you want to be doing, if everything else is already done, is using Holy Shock. As you can see, we completely shifted it around. Holy Shock is the last thing we want to be doing, and that goes completely against the tier set we're having in Season 2. That is mainly why Avenging Crusader is not looking as interesting or as powerful in the next season, because it does not benefit whatsoever from the tier set. But yeah, that's the TLDR of how you want to be playing Avenging Crusader. Just keep those things on cooldown on that order. And if you manage to do so and you time things right and you're not over healing like crazy, then you do actually a lot of healing. But there's of course a lot more things involved into that. Just of course let me know in the comments if you have any questions. So here I bring you some footage from another Holy Paladin that's not actually me, because I do not have any footage from PTR testing this time around, and I have not been playing any normal wings in the Season 1 raid. But here we go, this guy is playing normal wings, and as you can see, this is what he's doing. So what I said before is you want to be using all your Holy Power into Light of Dawn, and I know you might not be familiar with his UI, but I beg of you please, if you want to slow down the footage or something, just take a look at where he is actually pressing. Whenever he has 3 Holy Power, 9.9 times out of 10, as I mentioned, he is going to be using those Lights of Dawn just for the healing, and he will just be cycling through those Holy Shocks and Crusader Strikes in hopes of doing some healing while he is generating the Holy Power. That's the simplicity of Holy Paladin. It's really simple, so long as you're able to be in melee, so long as you don't have any mana issues, and so long as you're not getting sniped, because your healing is not something you can really control. As you know, of course, Light of Dawn is completely random, but that is what the rotation of a Holy Paladin really boils down to. As I mentioned before, he will also, of course, be consuming the buff from Empyrean Legacy whenever that's up. I don't really see it on the screen there, but I'm sure he's tracking it somewhere, and he is also going to be doing that. But yeah, using wings pretty much on cooldown whenever there's healing to be done. Of course, if you want to be delaying delaying them until the healing needs to happen, that's always a thing. But for the most part, wings are supposed to be used on cooldown because you get the most out of them that way. But as I mentioned, if you really want to be assigning them to some situation, or you know the healing is going to be necessary at this specific point, then you can always save them for a couple seconds. Ideally not too long, so you can get another set of them as soon as possible. But that's really the simplicity of Holy Paladin. As you can see, spamming that Light of Dawn as often as you can. It's all about holy power generation and holy power spending. That's where your healing is going to be coming from. There's nothing else to it. Really, trust me, do not ever press your casting spells unless it's absolutely necessary. In a raiding environment, that is a complete waste of mana. Never really use your Flash of Light or Holy Light unless, like, I cannot stress it enough, pretty much never use it. And that's really all it comes down to. At the end of the day, if you're having issues doing HPS, it's gonna come down to your uptime of just keeping things on cooldown, and it's gonna come down to your holy power generation. So make sure you generate as much holy power as you can and you keep things on cooldown as much as you can. You should be fine with around 30% haste, and at that point your stats are never ever an issue. It's no longer about your stats. Gearing, of course, will always make your healing higher or lower, but in many cases when people approach me saying that they have issues with their HPS being low, it's just because they don't keep the right things on cooldown, they don't follow the priority properly, and they sometimes even not spend their holy power properly onto their Light of Dawn. So of course this is PTR footage, they're gonna be probably wiping here, it's on Mythic and such, but yeah, that's everything pretty much I wanted to talk about, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Anyways, everybody, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did so, please drop a like and subscribe, and you can also go ahead and help me out even more by downloading Age of Origins with the link in the description. You can also redeem some goodies by using my code, so I'll leave all that in the description. And anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.